Welcome to the Agile Software Engineering Deep Dive. My name is Alessandro Guida, and in this episode I want to talk about something we rarely frame correctly in engineering organizations: hiring. Hiring is often discussed in terms of speed, headcount, and short-term productivity. We talk about pipelines, funnels, and time to fill as if people were interchangeable resources entering a system. But hiring is not an operational problem to optimize. It is a strategic decision with long-term consequences for culture, capability, resilience, and ultimately for business outcomes. In this episode, we'll explore why different problems require different hiring strategies, why onboarding time is not wasted time, and why the real cost of hiring decisions often appears years after the contract is signed. We'll also look at how job ads shape who applies, why volume is a misleading signal of success, and how leadership choices during hiring quietly define the organization you end up with. This is not about perfect processes or clever frameworks. It's about making conscious, responsible decisions when you bring people into your organization. Because long after tools, roadmaps, and methodologies change, the people you hire are the ones who carry the system forward. Let's dive in.
So I think at some point, almost every engineering leader hits the exact same wall. Delivery pressure is spiking, quality is slipping, and the quick fix seems painfully obvious.
Right. Someone in a meeting just says it.
Exactly. Someone, usually a stressed out VP, says, we just need to hire a few more engineers. Headcount gets approved, money starts flying, and everyone sort of breathes a sigh of relief. Problem solved.
But here's the catch, and this is what we're digging into. Months later, you look around, and yeah, the team is numerically larger, but is it substantively stronger?
Usually not.
Not at all. The same core people are still carrying all the weight. We call them the accidental superheroes. And all those little architectural shortcuts that caused the slowdown in the first place, they're still piling up. The new hires haven't really accelerated anything, so what happened?
Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a stack of sources that treat hiring and onboarding engineering talent not as simple, administrative tasks for HR.
No, not at all.
But as these incredibly high-leverage organizational design choices. They have massive long-term consequences for your finances, your architecture, your whole system. We're really treating this as an engineering problem.
And our core thesis today, and this might be a bit of a shocker, is that hiring engineers is definitively not an HR activity.
Okay, explain that.
HR supports it, absolutely. They provide vital process structure, but the ultimate responsibility from defining the role to evaluating the candidate to their long-term development, that sits squarely with engineering leadership.
And the sources are really unequivocal here. Delegating this is one of the most expensive mistakes you can possibly make. But why? I mean, if engineering leaders are already drowning, why can't they just hand off the scheduling and sorting to someone else?
Because when you delegate hiring, you're delegating the single most impactful factor in your future system stability.
Yeah.
You wouldn't delegate your core architectural design, right?
Of course not.
You can't delegate team competence either. The real cost isn't just a wasted salary. It shows up later as chronic delivery instability, pervasive architectural decay.
Disengaged engineers.
Totally disengaged engineers who realize the job is not what was advertised, and that fragile reliance on those few accidental superheroes holding the whole chaotic system together.
That really resonates. So if you're out there struggling with platform stability or wondering why your growth has plateaued even after you hired more people, this deep dive is going to show you exactly why you need to grab control of that hiring pipeline right now.
Let's start with a foundational failure point. Most organizations, and I mean most, do not have a hiring strategy. They have a hiring process.
What's the difference?
They hire because headcount was approved. It's a task. They completely miss the fundamental strategic question. What specific kind of engineer do we actually need right now, and why does the business require this particular investment?
And that assumption that all hiring is the same is so damaging. Our sources are very clear that different business problems demand radically different hiring solutions. This is that high-value nugget we promised, so we should really spend some time here.
Absolutely. Let's break down the 4 scenarios they lay out.
Go for it.
Okay. Strategy 1. You need a super expert. Right now. You've got a specific, urgent, high-risk problem, maybe a complex compliance system integration, or a legacy database re-architecture.
The intuitive response is to go hire a full-time employee to fix it.
Exactly. The intuitive but wrong response.
But wait, conventional wisdom says consultants are incredibly expensive. Wouldn't hiring someone permanent save money in the long run? You own the resource then.
You're touching on the central delusion of that whole approach. Yes, the daily rate for consultant is higher, but the hidden costs of that permanent hire are just catastrophic.
How so?
You create a lonely expert. Once that urgent problem is solved 6 months later, they get bored, they leave. Or worse, they become a bottleneck, protecting the very system they built. The healthier option is to stop trying to hire a person and instead buy a specific defined outcome.
So hire the consultant or fractional leader, and this is the key part and force explicit knowledge transfer as part of the contract. Long term, that's actually cheaper and way more sustainable than creating a single point of failure.
Precisely. Now on to strategy 2. You need bread and butter, continuity. This is the long game.
Not a firefighter.
No, the goal here is steady, reliable delivery. Organizational resilience. When this is the goal, the focus shifts entirely away from hiring for immediate senior skills and towards early career engineers.
So you're looking for high potential, not necessarily high productivity on day one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Strong fundamentals, problem-solving ability, and just sheer learning capacity. Resilient organizations deliberately build these internal pipelines. They accept the short-term training investment because they're building the stable core of the team for the next decade.
Okay, the third strategy is maybe the most dangerous one. You decide you need top talent to strengthen your market position. The sources give a really stark warning here. Top talent does not fix weak systems.
Oh, it's a disaster. You place a true top performer into a fragile organization, one where processes are a mess, the code is shaky, leadership doesn't protect their time, they don't elevate the
What
system.
depends to them.
They burn out, they get frustrated by the lack of quality peers, or they just leave, and you're left with nothing but a huge, wasted salary budget.
So hiring top talent only really works if the system is ready for them. That means clear expectations, other smart people to collaborate with, and critically, management that is ready to be challenged by them.
Otherwise, you're just paying for frustration. Which brings us to the last, most crucial role. You need engineering leaders. And this isn't just about seniority or tenure. A true leader is defined by their judgment, their systems thinking, and their ability to grow others.
So we're not just looking for a big title or 20 years of experience. This leader needs the wisdom to make trade-offs, to see the whole system, and critically, to multiply the efforts of the people around them.
And if you can't fill these roles internally, that should trigger a really brutally honest conversation about why your own system isn't nurturing that kind of judgment.
This clarity of strategy should flow directly into the first major point of breakdown, the job ad.
The job ad. Yes,
Yeah.
It's the first strategic failure. And our sources say again and again that engineering job ads are so often written by HR from some generic template.
Instead of by the engineering leaders who actually own the outcome. It's madness.
Complete madness. The
Yeah.
job ad is where you set the expectation. And they fail when they just obsess over tools, languages, buzzwords that'll be obsolete in 18 months.
And they totally underemphasize what really matters. The responsibility, the outcomes, the complexity of the problems you'll get to solve.
And what's fascinating is the simple rule they suggest for writing them. For every characteristic you list, just ask yourself, how would I actually verify this in an interview?
Oh, that's good.
If you say you need a problem solver, that's easy to test. You give them a problem. But if you demand a multitasking wizard or a stress-resistant team player, how do you verify that? You can't. It's just meaningless noise.
And what we read in the sources is that the job ad becomes a kind of organizational X-ray for the candidate. A long, chaotic list of buzzwords that signals architectural chaos.
That's a brilliant connection. And here's why. If you need a candidate to be a Java expert and a Python expert and a Node expert, it probably means your organization hasn't made a choice.
Right. It's a big, unstable monolith held together with duct tape, and you're hoping this new hire can fix that internal conflict for you.
Exactly. Instead of just maintaining some academic skill matrix, the goal should be to communicate ambition. Great engineers want to solve meaningful problems. It's that Steve Jobs quote, right? We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. That's the sense of ownership that has to communicate.
And that ownership has to extend to selection. Engineering leaders cannot outsource candidate screening, especially not that initial filtering.
That's where the most irreversible mistakes happen.
This is the mistake of relying on what the sources call proxy signals. A junior HR person or an automated tracking system, an ATS, they just filter for keywords. They see a linear career path, a prestigious degree.
And they mistake that for competence. They see a recent grad and think high energy, but none of these are reliable predictors of actual real-world impact.
The result is so predictable, only the safest, most conventional candidates get through.
Anyone with a non-standard background, a unique trajectory, they're filtered out before they even get a conversation. If hiring is truly mission-critical, engineering leaders have to block out time to be involved from that very first decision.
But if they're so risk-averse, shouldn't we be embracing those safest candidates? I mean, it seems logical to minimize risk.
It sounds logical, but what it really does is optimize for mediocrity. Conventional candidates tend to uphold conventional systems. If you want innovation, if you want real improvement, you need someone who thinks differently.
And by relying on those proxies, you're screening out the very people who could challenge the status quo.
Which is often exactly what you hired them to do.
It's also worth pointing out that if a company's job ad overemphasizes its social culture, the ping pong tables, the catered lunch.
The Friday happy hours.
Right. It might be compensating for a lack of professional clarity or technical challenge. If all the important stuff is undocumented tribal knowledge, that new hire has to climb these invisible walls all alone.
And once you've hired the right person, the opportunity for failure is still enormous. We need to shift focus because onboarding is so often treated as hospitality, welcome bags, flowers.
Leadership presentations.
When in reality, it must be about momentum and responsibility transfer.
Nothing kills the motivation of a smart new hire faster than seeing that the organization is just unprepared. Missing access, missing equipment, no clear plan.
It signals priorities far more loudly than any speech about how much you're valued. It says, we haven't made time for your actual work.
And crucially, organizations almost always blur the roles of the buddy and the mentor. They are not the same thing.
The distinction is critical. A buddy helps the new hire survive. They navigate the systems, the routines, how to file an expense report, where the docs are.
Practical stuff.
Practical stuff. The mentor, on the other hand, helps the new hire grow. They provide professional context, they raise the standards, they offer long-term guidance. Both need to be assigned before day one.
Another area managers just viciously resist is job rotation. I can hear them now. I'm paying a salary for 3 months with no visible output, and the hosting team has to dedicate time to someone who's just going to leave.
That resistance is perfectly understandable. They're judged on short-term metrics. But the framing is just profoundly flawed. What's really happening is an investment in the next 10 or 12 years of that person's contribution.
Because domains are harder to learn than tools.
So much harder. The business logic, the system architecture, how the company actually works, the risk exposure, that's the hard part.
So you're saying the short-term inconvenience is a necessary cost to prevent the long-term catastrophic risk of having engineers who know how to code but don't understand the business they're supporting.
Exactly. And for rotation to work, it has to be a company-level policy. It can't be a team-level decision. It's an engineering leadership responsibility.
Let's make this tangible. The sources give a great illustrative example of what a learner-focused onboarding looks like.
Yeah, it's a highly structured 4-month ramp. It starts before day one. Laptop, access buddy, and mentor are already assigned. Then, for month 1, the new hire sits with support or operations. Their job isn't to code. It's to observe real customer issues. They learn how the system actually fails in production. They see the real pain.
And in months 2 and 3, they shift to quality. They work in test or QA, learning about defect discovery, release constraints, compliance, all the defensive standards.
Only then, month 4 and beyond, do they join a development team. They start small, with well-scoped tasks, and gradually take on real ownership. That kind of thoughtful plan tells a new engineer that the company prioritized their context over immediate output.
So bringing this all back to the core premise, hiring and onboarding are not isolated events. They're interconnected systems. Bad hires don't just fail in a vacuum. They shape standards. They influence behavior. They dictate future hiring.
And leadership ownership is it's non-negotiable for sustainable performance.
But the process doesn't even end when the offer is signed. We have to talk about the final stage, closing the search. How you reject a candidate matters more than most organizations realize. It's about your brand.
It's so vital. Those generic rejection emails, the ones that feel cold and automated, they raise a quiet but really damaging question in the applicant's mind. Did anyone even read my application?
And talented engineers notice that. They remember it for years.
They do, and those rejected candidates, they're also your future customers, potential referrers, maybe even future applicants when your company matures. When you send an insulting automated rejection, you're damaging your brand over what is just administrative laziness.
Exactly. The goal of a hiring process isn't to maximize application volume. That's a false KPI that just makes the metrics team happy. The real goal is to attract a small number of highly relevant candidates and treat every single one with respect.
Which means tuning your job ad so it doesn't appeal to everyone. It should be specific. It should paint an honest picture of the challenges. That's what attracts real organizational fit. If leaders take ownership, they should block time to read applications and make sure the responses reflect a genuine evaluation.
That's powerful. The lesson here is that you can judge an organization's commitment to quality engineering, not just by the features they ship, but by how they handle the people who sign on.
Indeed. And maybe the ultimate test of an organization's long-term health is visible in how it handles the people who walk away, not just the people who sign on. Something for you to mull over as you review your processes for that next critical headcount request.
Thank you for listening to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. If today's episode gave you new insight into working across teams or highlighted the role of discipline in achieving real agility, feel free to share it with your colleagues or your network. You can find the full written article along with previous episodes in the Agile Software Engineering newsletter on LinkedIn. And if you have thoughts, questions, or examples from your own organization, I'd be happy to hear from you. Your experiences help shape what we explore next. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.